This is Naked Mormonism.
I pledge my life, all that I may have. I will strive to the utmost of my ability to be what you would want me to be.
It's time to find the truth.
And having set our hand to the plow, we will never look back until this work is finished.
And where is the church heading?
I have faith that the Constitution will be saved as prophesied by Joseph Smith. But it will not be saved in Washington. It will be saved by enlightened members of this church.
The explicit tag is there for a reason, so if you get offended at what's said, it's not for you. But most importantly,
may you ponder the truths you've heard. May they help you become even better than you were.
Skepticize everything.
Welcome to this special edition episode of the Naked Mormonism podcast. I'm Bryce Blankenagel, and thank you for joining me. I'm taking a break from doing historical episodes due to a couple of crazy weeks that I have. Today's episode is actually just going to be a conversation that I had with my buddy Rick. He's a pretty smart guy, but I honestly don't think he's challenged on his faith very often, so we kind of get into a pretty deep discussion about his beliefs and why he has them, and it was an all-around good theist-atheist conversation. So I hope you enjoy the show, and then I'll come back on at the end for just a little bit of house cleaning. So, I'm joined today here by my buddy Rick.
How you doing?
He's a theist. It's good to have you on, man. Thanks for joining me today.
Not a problem.
Sweet. I have a couple of questions. I just kind of want to discuss like the general God topics with you, but like there are some like specific questions that I do have about your worldview. So you and I have had these discussions a couple of times.
Yeah, sure.
And they've gone down certain rabbit holes and all kinds of shit, but the listeners don't know you. They've never met you. They've never heard a discussion that we've had. So we might rehash some shit. Might be all new, but I mean, it's bound to be interesting nonetheless. So
I will be glad to share my perspective.
Perfect. Fantastic. That's all I want. That's all I ever want out of discussions like this. So tell me, did you consider yourself a Christian now, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Did you grow up Christian then?
Yes. My background, my mom was very much the enforcer when it came to going to church when we were kids. My dad, I don't think I've ever seen him step foot inside of a church besides my sisters and my weddings. So he was never really the force behind it all. My mom kind of made us go, and growing up I saw the point of, there are good lessons to be learned, even whether you do or don't believe in Christ, but there are a lot of good teachings in the Christian lifestyle, like just of how to be a good person and treat people respectfully, and you get taught a lot of that stuff there. And I grew up going until I was probably 10 years old, and then my parents gave me the option of whether I wanted to continue on, and I just kind of lost interest in going to church. And then as I got into high school, I started questioning a lot of the things that they taught. Actually, never became atheist.
Like what kind of things that they taught?
There's just a lot of hard things to understand in the Christian religion, like as far as scientifically believing, because I'm very scientifically minded.
Right.
When it comes down to it, the resurrection is a very major struggle for me to believe that somebody could die and come back to life.
Fair enough.
It's hard to believe.
But I mean that's feasible when you say that, it's God / God's son, or it's incarnate God, or whatever Christian sect you subscribe to has different viewpoints of what Jesus was. But I mean that seems internally coherent, at least, right?
Right, exactly. It's one of those things I still struggle with believing in being a Christian. Just there's a lot of scientific things that don't sync up with Christianity, and that's one of the major ones of them that you can't. It's hard to follow.
in that case, would you consider yourself a Christian by just strictly societal standards, or would you consider yourself like a Bible believing that Jesus was a real person, believe that God exists? I mean, hardcore, not hardcore, but like you are Christian born through and through. There's no question about what your beliefs would be.
No, there's always questions about what my beliefs are. I challenge stuff all the time. Like,
well, obviously the resurrection. That's the first thing you brought up.
The resurrection.
What else?
A lot of teachings, like Moses met God through a burning bush. Like,
and I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Jacob, his son, if I'm not mistaken, wrestled with God, and then Jacob's wife cut off Jacob's foreskin with a sharp rock and then threw the foreskin at God, and then God lost the wrestling match. So yeah, I mean, that seems like a little hard to believe for me too.
Kind of weird, you know? Like, were they tripping on acid, or, you know, like, I mean, this is a long time ago. Was acid even around at that point?
All of the chemicals existed for
I'm
it
just
at
saying,
the point.
you're right, but like, it kind of makes you wonder if they were tripping on something, or, I mean, maybe they did. Who knows?
Yeah, well, and that's a common like theory of people that want to try and examine the historicity of the Bible or of any religious text, because it's like, wow, okay, this person talked about hearing a voice inside their head and seeing certain things, like a bush that was on fire that never burned out. Right? That's kind of cool, kind of weird.
Yeah.
But if somebody was tripping on something and looked at a bush and saw that it looked like it was on fire and started hearing voices, if I had a 1200 BC point of view, I would say that's fucking weird. That's probably God. But I mean, shit. I mean, we can explain it just by chemicals now.
Right. Scientific science itself has advanced itself to the point at which we can be like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
But in those sorts of things, I struggle. But when it comes down to basic teaching that you get out of Christianity is where I choose to go to church and take the lessons in, and I can pick and choose what I do and don't believe, but deep down, I think Christianity has a way of kind of guiding you in a way to be a better person. I don't necessarily follow it all the time,
okay,
but that's the reason I go to church and consider, I mean, in the grand sense of things, consider myself a, quotations, Christian. I'm nowhere near the level of Bible thumper, pass it on to the next person. Like, I mind my own business, and I don't bug people about their own beliefs, and you don't bug me about mine. Like, I'll be glad to share what I believe, but it's what I believe, and it's none of your business.
Fair enough. And, I mean, as long as beliefs can be open to inquisition and to discussion, I think that's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love that you're like scientifically minded. You choose to go basically where the evidence leads. So let me get this out for everybody. You subscribe to evolution. You think evolution happened?
Oh, absolutely. There's 100% scientific facts that show that things have evolved. There's another thing with Christianity that I'm like, so you just created people and they were there. Well,
biblically speaking, I mean, the all of the materials were already here on the earth, and then God breathed the spirit into the dust, and then that's what formed humans. So, I mean, there's an explanation for all of it.
Yeah.
No matter how ridiculous it actually sounds when you say it, but I mean, there is an explanation in the Bible for it.
Right.
It doesn't align with the scientific community, but the explanation exists. And I can see why the Bible can be a safe haven for a lot of people.
Right. Which is kind of where I'm at, like, as far as... Basically, there's a lot of guidance in life in the Bible that I subscribe to.
Like what? What specifically?
Oh, because that's like something specifically.
That's like so broad. I just want to dive into something.
Let me tell you this: I go to church when my wife asks me to go to church, and if she doesn't ask me to go to church, I don't go to church.
Right, when she cracks the whip.
Right,
that's cool.
Yeah, because I don't per se believe that you have to go to church to be a good Christian. or be a good person for that matter.
Okay.
You don't have to. Do I think going to church I will never tell her no. Because when we go, you learn things about, oh, alright, well I can see where in my everyday life how that would be a good lesson to take with me and treat people better in that respect.
And it's a grand sense of community, and you're associating with people in your neighborhood, and people that you've spent a lot of time with that you know. I mean, the sense of community has a lot to do with it as well, I would think.
Sure, and that's not actually necessarily the case for me, because when we go to church, we show up 15 minutes late, so we don't have to sing the weird new modern Christian hymnals, because I would rather take a sharp stick to the eye than sing those.
Dude, listen to some Mormon hymns. They're pretty fucking progressive.
From what I've learned from you about the Mormon religion, my friend, if I had grown up Mormon, I would be in the exact same position you are. Like, there's a lot of batshit crazy stuff that I have learned about where you grew up, and I didn't. I grew up in a community church where like nobody's associated with any denomination. Like, you just go, you hang out with your friends, and you learn about how to be a good person to them. That's what I took from church growing up. I never really like just align myself as one of those people that's like, yeah, this is resolute. Like, this is definitive stuff that I can wrap my mind around.
Fair enough. So can I ask you then? You said like church is just like the place you go, hang out with your friends, learn something good about the world, or learn some a new perspective. Can I ask you, do you think that the Bible is necessary for those quote unquote good teachings that you're talking about?
No, absolutely not. Like, there's lots of good people in this world that didn't grow up with that. It's a matter of parenting, for one. Like, good parents teach their kids how to be good people.
Can't argue with that.
Bad parents, their kids don't get a lot of guidance in how to be a good person. And unfortunately, I like the way I was raised up. As a parent now, it's kind of just a go-to, I guess you could call it, for me. And I like the way that my parents did things with me. Like, once I got to be old enough, they were like, okay, you don't have to go to church anymore if you don't want to. But in going there, I feel like I turned out to be a pretty good person. And
okay, let me stop you there. So you're talking all about like parenting versus church. Oh, not versus, but in a compliance with church.
Yeah.
Do you think that Christianity has anything to do with that, or do you just have awesome fucking parents?
Maybe I just have awesome fucking parents. I mean, they are awesome fucking parents. I do have awesome fucking parents.
Right, me too.
I love them to death. Like I said, my dad, though, his parents were very, very much into, you go to church on Sundays and blah, blah, blah. And when my dad grew up, he was kind of a rebel. And when he got out of living with his parents, he quit. But do I think my dad's a worse person for doing so? No.
Awesome. That's
absolutely not. My dad is the hardest working friggin' guy I know. Like, he dedicated his entire life to making sure that no matter what it came to, no matter how poor we were at the time, like, Christmas time came around and there were always presents on the table. Like, he sold cattle to make Christmas happen.
Dude,
like,
what a badass. Seriously, like, what a good dad. And see, you being able to say, like, at this time, like, I had good parents, I had a good upbringing, and didn't have anything to do with the church. And saying that, I had good parents because not just because, but one of the reasons why I had such good parents is because they gave me so much freedom to think and to grow and to be my own person. Like, I think that has a lot to do with it. Like, dude, if I didn't go to church when I was younger, I got fucking locked in the bathroom for the 3 hours that my parents were at church. Like, it was either go and sit at church and be bored, or like sit at home in the bathroom and be bored. So dude, that was like fucking annoying.
Crazy to wrap my mind around, because if I chose not to go to church that day, my dad was like, well, guess it's just you and me. What do you want to do? Well, you guys
just ride a tractor.
You guys just bought me 2 new tractors to go play with in the backyard. Can I go play? go outside and play, dude.
All right. And you're a smart, productive member of society now for doing it. And it didn't really have anything to do with the church itself.
No, it didn't.
So can I ask you then, how you said kind of your dad is like, you've never seen him set foot in a church except for special occasions. Do you think that your dad believes in God then? It's kind of taking a step back and kind of a like hearsay skeptical idea, but like, I mean, do you think he believes in God?
Honestly, that's a part of my dad's life that he's never really let us in on.
Have you ever asked him?
A long time ago, and I don't remember his exact answer.
Okay.
My dad's really good at diverting. Just because he didn't want to affect us and what he believed, because he didn't believe that we should have to believe what he believes. Do I think my dad at one point did? Yes. Do I think there were a lot of things in life that changed his mind? Maybe. I don't know. When we talk in family situations, he still speaks of God. Do I think he refers to God in a fully Christian aspect, or whether he's just referring to God as in a general sort of being that created Earth in itself? Earth and the universe, and because that's a lot. Well, honestly, let's go back. So here's part of my pseudo-Christian belief is: do I believe in evolution? Abso-freaking-lutely.
All right.
Do I believe that God necessarily created all beings on Earth? No. Do I believe the Big Bang Theory existed? It absolutely could have. But where did that matter come from? How was that matter formed into existence in the first fucking place?
And that's a huge point that theists and atheists really, really argue about, because you and I have to go back to the same I don't know.
Yep.
I mean, if you rewind the clock back, all the way back 13.8 billion years, there has to be a single point of singularity that initiated the Big Bang. And you and I are at the same evidentiary standpoint of, fuck, I have no idea how it happened. But I find it hard when somebody will assert or will tack on a God onto that and will say, well, we can't explain it, so God did it. Because that doesn't provide any like actual explanatory power.
It doesn't.
It doesn't really teach us. It doesn't have any testability. There's no ability to reproduce it. We can't see gods constantly creating universes around us, so I mean we can't compare it to a non-designed universe versus a designed universe. I just have such a hard time when somebody invokes a god into that little gap that we haven't solved yet, and we may never solve, but we might solve someday.
It's possible.
Yeah.
And when that solution does come along, would my train of thought be persuaded? Absolutely.
Good.
If you can prove to me how the universe was created, I'll stop believing that a higher being of some sort didn't create it.
So can I ask you then, being a believer in a higher being, were you reasoned to that? Did you hear arguments that reasoned you to the point of believing that God spawned the universe, or was that just kind of your default belief?
It was a deduction. Like, it just, for me, started out being one of those things of, you start at basic Christianity in the year 0, and when Jesus was born and going through all that crap, well, then you start backtracking into the Old Testament, and God created the heavens and the earth, and I don't know if I believe that.
Well, and the stars are just actually holes in the firmament. Didn't you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and rabbits chew their cud, and donkeys can talk, and so can snakes.
Yeah.
Okay, and giants exist.
Yeah.
Called Anaheims and Nephilim.
Now, there's a lot of mythical.
Right.
I think the Bible is very poetic, honestly, in the sense that it was written.
Okay, so then
it creates
talk.
Wait, just a second. It creates a very, very believable story, which I cannot necessarily wrap my mind around, but in the sense of like, reading a book, like, it creates a plot line that, very interesting.
Well,
do I necessarily, in scientific belief, think it's possible? No.
Okay.
But, man, it sure creates a very poetic explanation of how in the world this whole thing has come around. But when you start applying, the problem is, for me, is you would start applying science to all this shit.
It doesn't hold up.
No,
right?
it doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. Do I believe I'm a Christian in the sense of the Bible? No.
Okay.
Do I believe I am a Christian in the sense that I think there's a higher being that did create the ability for life in itself? Yes.
So then if you've divorced your theism from standard biblical Christianity, do you think that Christianity could exist without the Bible? I'm not asking if you think Christianity could have been spawned without the Bible. Do you think Christianity in today's terms can exist without using the Old or New Testament?
No, hell no.
Okay. So then why do you still cling to beliefs of Christianity when it's in direct contradiction to so many scientific claims?
That's the funny part is that I don't necessarily. I guess I group myself in Christianity because it's the closest thing to where I'm at.
Right. If you would have grown up in the Middle East, you'd say you're Muslim.
I guess so.
If you grew up in Utah, you'd say you're Mormon.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know about that, Bryce.
Well, you'd probably be somewhere along the path that I've taken.
There's a whole lot of
from Mormonism to atheism, and you would be somewhere in that spectrum, though.
Yes. It
just depends on your demographic, where you're growing up.
For me, the Christian thing is just kind of a comfort zone, I guess. Like, my wife is very much associated with it, and I won't argue with her, just like my dad never argued with my mom about her beliefs. And Mom wanted us to go to church and do all that stuff. My dad was a respectful human being, and he may or may not have ever believed what Mom believed, but he was respectful enough for her to let her raise her kids and not argue with her. And it's not in me to do the same thing to other people. So do I go to Christian church? Yes. Do I question it every fucking day I'm there? Hell yes.
Good. Awesome. That's all that you can do.
But how can you be a human being and not question it? No matter where you come from, Muslim, Jewish, Mormon, Catholic, Buddhist, if you're not questioning who and why are you a fucking human and what are you doing in life? You have to question everything.
Well,
you have to.
Okay.
Like, if you're not trying to understand, then what are you? Just a fucking drone out there? Like a fucking everyday monkey?
Well, I would argue that a vast majority of, I would call them non-thinking Christians. I'd say a vast majority of them do exactly what you said, just go about their day-to-day life and never contemplate their own existence. Because, I mean, honestly, most of the people that are contemplating their existence end up as an atheist because there's just not enough supporting evidence. Because when people start contemplating where they came from, who they are, where they're going after they die, and reflect that against what the evidence that we have supports, there's just a huge disconnect that we can't make.
Sure.
So let me harken back to what Christianity is actually good for in our society. Why do you think that your mom kind of like not drug your family to church, but like kind of incited your family to, or incentivized your family to go to church? Do you think it was just because it was a good way to live, a good way to raise kids, or...
I think that was the best way my mom knew how to raise good people, because she grew up, turned out to be a good person, thought her parents were good people, and just kind of guided us kids that way. And even my mom never forced us to go to church.
Really? That's amazing.
For the first 10 years, it was Sunday, get up, go to church. It was kind of a routine thing. Like, you need to go, you need to learn. And I don't know as though necessarily for my mom's sake even that it was for the actual belief of how and why we are here. It was more of church teaches you a lot of things about life and how to be decent, and that we can't necessarily formulate into words here, but the church is good at doing that kind of stuff.
Well, I'd love to dive into that if you're willing to jump into that conversation.
Man, I can try my best. Like, let me just tell you, the worst part about me is I'm not a devout Christian. I'll claim Christianity just because it's the closest to where I am. But really what boils down to in the end as to why I claim it now is just some events that have happened to me lately that provide comfort.
Okay. So
it's not even necessarily that I believe in it, it's just comforting.
Okay, so you can even devolve that into saying that it's some level of like vague deism, where you believe in a god, you don't know if it's a Christian god or a Hindu god, or if there is an afterlife. It's great if there is, but you don't really know. It's just kind of like an agnostic sort of stance on deism, saying there's a higher power that created all of it.
Very much so. That is exactly where I'm at.
So then, can I ask you? Let's just say, from a Christian perspective, do you think that, historically speaking, the church has been more of a force for good or a force for pain, suffering, and anguish in the human species?
This is funny. I was wondering if you'd bring this up because we listened to that podcast the other day of
Skating Atheist.
Yeah, Skating Atheist. Which was hilarious.
Great, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
In a way, do I think that the Christians have acted a lot like my perspective of what a Muslim acts like towards Americans? Hell yeah, towards the world?
Thank you.
Christians do evil things, man.
Let's just say Christians, oftentimes they will use, just similar to Muslims, will use their faith or use their belief in God as an excuse to do evil.
And they justify it based on the fact that, well, sin is a human nature and God forgives that. Well, how can you justify what heaven and hell is then? Because if God forgives sins, then the hell shouldn't exist.
So let's talk about Hitler, right? So Hitler was basically a Catholic for his entire life.
Right.
Exterminated millions of Jews who were responsible for killing Jesus Christ in the first place.
Jesus.
You would think that God would love Hitler.
Right.
But and then
so messed up.
And then when you talk about like Mother Teresa, right?
Yeah.
Who was providing matriarchal care for these horribly run down, destitute tribes in Africa.
Yeah.
And was providing humanitarian aid to them. But we found out later, after her death, that she was selective in the aid she was giving. She would only give her sermons, and then she would provide the aid. She was actually kind of a fucking psychopath zealot.
Really?
Yeah, did you know that?
I had no idea.
Yeah, Mother Teresa did some motherfucking crazy shit. So I would recommend checking that out.
So funny story.
Okay.
Worst 10th birthday ever.
Oh, yes, I can't wait.
So, on my 10th birthday, in going to church for that long, like Mother Teresa's talked about a lot, you kind of develop this globe around, how good of a person she was, which I didn't know any of this.
Right.
That you were telling me, but my 10th birthday, she died.
Oh, really?
Princess Diana died. And my favorite uncle all died the same day. It was like the worst 10th birthday ever. Sorry, it was just a funny side story. Like,
sucks, man.
Worst 10th birthday ever. I'm like, oh my god, Mother Teresa and Princess Diana and my freaking favorite uncle who I love to hang out with all the time. Like, I had all my friends over and they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, huh? I don't think I'm okay today. Like,
shit kind of went down in triplets.
Three people that are like highly regarded and like in my life are gone.
As a 10-year-old.
What the? This is a messed up day. I don't understand.
That sucks. Yeah, no doubt about that.
Yep.
Okay, so when...
Sorry, back on track.
So Hitler good, Mother Teresa bad. Basically, that's the argument that I'm making from God's perspective. So we're talking about Mother Teresa, who could have given care to so many individuals, but selectively chose not to because they wouldn't subscribe to her belief system, basically. That was what you can boil it all down to.
So the argument you make here,
Okay.
in my perspective, as growing up as a good Christian, because my growing up as a good Christian is different than a lot of what God's perspective of a good Christian, technically, according to the Bible, would
Biblically,
be.
yes.
Biblically
yeah.
speaking. No, Hitler was a fucking terrible person.
He was a terrible person.
Like, horrible person.
But he could be considered a saint by some Christian perspectives.
Well, let's look at the Catholic Church for a second, buddy.
Right.
All the saints and shit, raping little boys, raping children. Holy balls, how the fuck are you still Catholic?
Right. Exactly. When you find out these crazy factoids.
Bloody Brigham Young. Holy fuck, how are you still Mormon?
Right? You don't even know about him, man. You know
I know
about him.
He's a minuscule amount of what I've learned from you. But
Exactly.
just freaking your founder, Joseph Smith, crazy douchebag. Like, holy douchebag. I'm sorry, but my idea of being a good, I guess, not Christian, I guess, but being a good person.
Yay! There it is, the revelation. Being a good person.
It's not even a revelation for me. Like, I've always thought that, because when the good Christian kids in high school used to approach me when I was agnostic and, like, questioning everything and being like, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. Those kids drove me nuts. Like, dude, back off. Like, have you questioned this? Like, do you even understand where I'm at this point? Like, a good Christian would just be like, you know what, you should figure it out for yourself. And if Christianity is good and is true, then I will find my way back.
Well, okay. So if Christianity is good and true, it should be able to stand on its own merits.
Now, from what my perspective of Christianity, which I feel like Christianity should be, I guess, versus like lots of history that you can deduce into all of it, is where I really appreciate my upbringing, because the church that I went to didn't preach the sort of crazy things that, God, the kids that drove me nuts were the evangelical free kids at school, like,
Right.
just fucking over the top. Like, are they injecting you with something? Like, that's not where I come from. Like, my church never did that. My church was like, here's the teachings, take it or leave it. Here's how to be a good person. That's how we went to church, man. Like, there was no force upon you to be a person that goes out and inflicts upon others your own beliefs. No, man. Like, live your life.
Well, okay.
Here's the things that can guide you. Here's what Christianity provides. This is what Christianity is.
Well,
Okay, which
so
you can take or leave.
let's talk about that from a New Testament perspective.
Okay.
Okay, so the end of Mark has the Great Commission, which is considered a forgery by this point because we have earlier documents of Mark, earlier printings of Mark that don't have the Great Commission in it. But the Great Commission basically tells all Christians to go out and spread the word of Christianity to the world and to evangelize as much as possible and to... I believe that's where the term apologia was coined in Greek, ancient Greek, which means apologetics, Christian apologetics, making a case for Christianity. That's all biblical. That's all a New Testament biblical teaching. So, arguably, those kids that you were so annoyed with in school were fucking great Christians, and you were a bad Christian.
Oh, I have no doubts I was a bad Christian. It's actually, I've never read the Bible. Never read it. From cover to cover. Never. Do I read good scripture lines that...
That your pastor tells you?
Not even that. Just things that you hear from people. Facebook, for Christ's sake, people post things and you're like, yeah, that's a pretty good, honorable thing to follow in life.
There's a few of those that I get on my, not my wall, but from my friends on my at-home Facebook account, basically, I consider it. Mm-hmm. That's where all my friends from my community and all my family members have all that Facebook account. That's separate from my Naked Mormonism Facebook account.
Sure.
I see that shit out of the Book of Mormon all the time.
Sure.
And, it's like, oh, shit, that's a good moral message.
It's good little tidbits.
Shit, that's pretty cool.
Well,
have you ever researched those, reading like 10 passages before and after that? Like 10 verses before
here and
after?
there.
Because oftentimes...
I'm sure that... Dude, I'm terrible at this. Like, because I kind of formulate my own existence, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so essentially... where I come from is just taking tidbits of Christianity that I agree with, and like I said, I'm not claiming I'm a good Christian in any way, shape, or form. Do I think that I am? Do I think that I try to live my life as a good person? Yeah, absolutely. And do I think I've gotten a lot of my abilities to be that way from Christianity? Yes. Do I necessarily...
Like what? That's what I want to get to the heart of in this conversation. Is like, what moral teachings, what moral benefits can Christianity give us? What has it given you that you attribute to being like, you're a good person because of Christianity?
Well, honestly...
What's it done?
Honestly, God, a lot of what my church preached a lot about was the Ten Commandments, which I think are good things to follow in a general sense. Okay. And you kind of wrap your mind around how you want to go about doing those things.
Well,
but
I mean,
honor thy mother and thy father. Don't covet thy neighbor's wife. Like, do I believe in the fact that a man and a woman should commit to each other? Yes.
That's not in the Ten Commandments anywhere.
Well, but it kind of is in the sense of thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's.
True, but without coveting, capitalism dies. Right? If we don't want something that our friend has, then...
but in a literal sense, it means don't covet thy neighbor's wife, which I take it literally. It also says don't covet other things.
It also says his ass, his house, his multiple. I mean, it lists more than just his wife. That's so fair. I mean, it is basically. I mean, don't lust after what your friend has. Don't.
Sure.
Because oftentimes those
seven deadly sins.
Yeah, exactly.
Lust, greed.
Oftentimes those initial thoughts lead to reprehensible actions.
There's another thing that comes good out of Christianity is, try to wrap your mind around not doing the 7 deadly sins, because obviously you're human nature and you're gonna do all these things regardless.
Do you think human nature is a bad thing?
No.
Okay.
Do I think some humans' nature is bad? Yes.
Because let's face it.
Killing for one is bad. Like you don't kill people.
When you just throw that out, that's great. But as soon as you tack on a caveat like killing an innocent person, yes, that's wrong. But what about killing somebody that's trying to kill you? Oh shit, that's not wrong. That's not a problem. No, of course they're trying to kill you first, so you got to fucking kill them. Right? The 10 Commandment, that commandment just flies out the window at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean,
for me, I guess, I would have avoided at all costs killing another human, even if they're trying to kill me. Like, would take every attempt not to. But if it boiled down to it, would I kill someone if it came down to point blank? There's no other return. Would I defend my own life? Absolutely. Or
the life of your family.
Or the life of my family.
So, so from that perspective then, from your perspective, that's still breaking a commandment. If you kill a person, thou shalt not kill. That is 4-word commandment. That is blatant. Just, you shouldn't kill. Simple as that. I mean, It's amongst 613 other commandments, 603 other commandments that are absolutely crazy and have absolutely no relevance. And it flies in direct contradiction to so many things that Yahweh, the Old Testament God, commanded, because that's the only place that the Ten Commandments are placed. But so from that perspective, from a biblical perspective of following thou shalt not kill, the Ammonites in the Book of Mormon, so let me throw you a backstory. The Lamanites were coming to take down the Ammonites, but the Ammonites made a covenant with God to not raise up their swords against the Lamanites, the warring tribe they were against. So as soon as the Lamanites approached their city, they just fucking walked out the front gate and then just knelt down and started praying to God. And the Lamanites just come up and fucking hacked all their heads off. Just fucking killed them all. Well, not all of them, but shitloads of them. Mm-hmm. And then the Nephites had to make a covenant with the Ammonites to defend the Ammonites because they were fucking pussies and they wouldn't kill somebody that's trying to kill them. So who has the moral high ground? From a Christian perspective, from a human perspective, who has the moral high ground in a situation like that?
Well, just from what you've described, I guess, for me, the Ammonites would have the moral high ground for me because they avoided killing and fighting. And
at the cost of their own lives. And you stopped before that.
And is very
you
true.
said if somebody was threatening my life or my family's life, I would kill them.
I never said I would take the moral high ground.
Exactly.
According to Christianity.
So
but there comes into the fact of not just human nature, but science as it's proven, the natural thing of fight or flight. You either kill or be killed. Survival of the fittest. Sorry. Do I think that is trumping a lot of Christian shit? Yep.
Okay.
Survival of the fittest is very real for me. Do I wish to survive? Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I think everybody wants to survive. That's why we have kids, right? We not only want to survive, but we want our DNA to continue on forever. Because obviously we're a grown human being, able to reproduce. Our set of DNA is successful, therefore we want it to continue, perpetuate, so human beings can stay alive, right?
Yeah.
So, biblically speaking, thou shalt not kill. Fuck, that's a great tenet. If only all of us could follow it.
You're right. I agree.
Same with honor thy father and thy mother. What if your parents are assholes, right? What if your dad's a drunkard and your mom is a crack whore? Should you really honor your father and mother, or should you, as a young kid, as soon as you have the opening, get the fuck out of there and make a life for yourself, or get support from somewhere else? Or,
well, that's very fair. Coming from that's very fair, and I've thought of that before too. I guess I was just fortunate to come from a family of good parents. You know, like okay. I've never had to be. Okay. I've never had to be in that situation ever.
Okay. Lucky. That's lucky for you.
No, I agree.
Because that doesn't happen everywhere. I would say that's not the majority of cases. I wouldn't say it's a rarity to have good parents, but I would say the majority of cases, kids don't have a good, stable household to live in when they grow up. And that's a horrible thing.
And a lot of that is where I grew up. Rural America, small towns.
Right, farmer boy.
Parents stay together. Like, that shit don't happen where I'm from. Like, I'm not from the big city. Like, apparently a statistic is that 50% of American families get divorced, and I don't have a single set of friends whose parents have fucking split. I don't even know.
Well,
I don't even know if maybe 10 kids of the 140 I went to school with in my class, their parents divorced. Like, those kids, we were all like, holy cow, man, like, let us know what we can do for you. Like, that's big. Like, that's a scary thing. Mm-hmm. In my family, we don't allow for that to happen. Like, my wife's sister and her husband struggle a lot. Mm-hmm. And a word that is not allowed between me and my wife is the D word.
Right.
Because, no.
All right, well,
when you take a marriage contract, it's a Christian thing. Like, period. Marriage is
I'd love to argue
marriage
that.
is marriage is a religious thing. To me.
I had not even initially, but today it sort of is. But then why then do justices or any person with authority, why do they get to marry people if marriage is just a religious institution? Like, any judge can marry somebody. Or you can go online and apply for a minister's license in any religion that you want. Like a podcast I listen to is The Thinking Atheist with Seth Andrews. He applied for a ministry license to dudism. Right? Big Lebowski, the dude. Yeah, dudism. He's a dudist priest and he can perform marriage ceremonies. The same way that any justice of the peace could do so. So if if marriage is specifically and explicitly only a religious institution, then why the fuck can anybody get married by any crazy dude that has a few $1,000 to start up a little chapel in fucking Las Vegas?
That's a very, very good question.
And do you think marriage should be reserved only for religious institutions?
I think that marriage should only be reserved for. I guess it's kind of a part of me growing up that I've neglected to research, honestly. For me, marriage has always been the devotion of a man to a woman. Like, marriage, when you get married, that is a commitment you make to each other, not even necessarily for God's sake. This is a commitment you make in your life where no matter how hard it friggin' gets, you've promised your life to take care of that person. So,
do you think in all cases that divorce is a bad thing?
No, okay, I don't.
Good.
In fact, a person that I know, who I won't divulge any information about, very close, super close. Her husband has beat her a couple of times. And do I think that abuse is an out? Absolutely. Because somewhere in the contract of being devoted to another person, for me, the contract has become null and void. Because in a contract for me, laying a hand on another person is... I won't do it. I've never been in a fight. I won't get in a fight. I've never hit anybody. Other than wrestling and
scrapping,
boastful joking.
Yeah, of course. But so you say abuse. That's like bam, null, void. Relationship / marriage should be done and over with.
Well, I told her that for me that was an out.
Right.
She's a bit more. She's a devout Christian. Unlike me.
Okay.
She's very conservative, right-hand sided. I'm not. I won't do it. I will not conform to society. I'm sorry. But do I still think there's good on both sides of any argument? Yeah, hell yeah, there's always good on...
But, okay, so...
sides of those arguments.
When you say
so where I release her in the fact of... From what I formulated, from what I learned of us growing up, is that there's escape clauses for everything. I don't know.
Killing people, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Like, if you feel your life is being threatened, which in the case of her being fucking thrown up against a wall and held by throat,
right?
That's an escape clause. Well, you know what? She turned around and chose to make it work. And thank God, whatever. Thankfully, her husband turned him fucking self around and realized he was being an asshole. And he's been doing nothing but going to counseling and making himself better. Like, because after she threatened him with a subpoena for divorce, he was like, oh, fuck. Because we at least talked her into that. We talked her into, you need to file. Like, threaten him with it.
All right, you need to do some shit about it. But yeah, that's a great way to put it. I love how you say escape clause, because that's like a fucking awesome, perfect way to say it. So if you're trying to examine like these crazy and complex and dynamic moral situations, like somebody being abused by their significant other, or two rival tribes that are fighting over resources, or any number of situations, or capitalism, or whatever. Are the Ten Commandments really something that we should hold to as a moral guide? If we can just say, oh, the Ten Commandments are great, but in this situation, fuck, ignore that one.
No, you gotta wrap your mind around it. You gotta be smart. Like, I'm sorry, but you gotta use your damn judgment about stuff.
Okay, well,
and some people's judgment is different than my judgment, and I'm not gonna hold that against them. But I would argue, in the Ten Commandments of Christianity, do I think there's good things wrapped around the Ten Commandments? Yes. Well, okay. Do I choose to take the good things away from it and ignore the bad? Yes.
Let me ask you,
who I am as a person.
One more question about the commandments. Have you ever, in your entire life, have you ever texted somebody or written a letter? Like just about anything. It doesn't matter.
I'm like, are we going somewhere? I'm like, this is pretty vague,
right? Have you ever texted somebody? Have you ever sent a text message?
No, never.
Not a single. No. You're a farm boy. I mean, it's a tough question.
Shut up.
Okay, farm boy has an iPhone.
Bryce, have I text you?
So you have text people, right? You've written letters, you've drawn doodles and notebooks and shit.
Hell yes.
So at what point is the graven images commandment applicable? Thou shalt not make any engraven images. Where is that applicable? If we didn't make engraven images, we would be fucked as a society. Literally fucked. If we didn't make pictures of things, if we didn't write things down, we'd be fucked. We'd still be fucking cheap in dirt fucked fucking Middle East, dude.
Okay. That's fair. It's fair.
Thank you.
Oh, you're awesome.
Thank you.
Let me go somewhere with this.
I'm listening. That was great.
I was using the Ten Commandments as just a general guide, I guess, but yes, you're right. In that case.
And in killing somebody in some cases, and in disobeying your parents in some cases, and in wanting your neighbor's cool-ass new truck in some cases, and yeah, in some cases, in almost all cases, the Ten Commandments just don't apply.
You're right.
Are they really a good moral guide that we should even pay attention to, or should we just fucking burn them? Just chuck them out.
No, but that's the thing. They're a guide. They're not for me, I know they're called commandments, but for me, they're a guide of how to be a good person. But there's exceptions to everything for me.
Could you possibly be a good person without ever knowing the Ten Commandments?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. So what good do they do?
Just, dude, from where I came from and how I grew up, it's the best way that I know of how to put my kids on a good path. That's all.
Okay. Fair enough.
Because if my background, I'll be just like my dad. I will never force my kids to go to church. Ever. Because I feel like in my own life I've created, just like I'm telling you right now, I have plots in my mind of how to be a good person, and the only reason that I would want them to go to church is because I want them to critically think for themselves, because I know they'll be surrounded by lots of Christian kids.
Okay, is church really the best way to teach your kids critical thinking? Is it really?
No, that's not at all where I was going with this.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Sorry.
No. My critical...
That was just an atheist jab that I had to throw at you.
No.
Sorry.
My critical thinking skills didn't come anywhere from going to church.
Me either. Mine were completely separate from church, and then I started critically analyzing the church, and I was like, "Holy fuck!"
Oh, well,
Right.
how the hell do you think I am where I am?
Exactly.
I mean, for fuck's sake, I almost went atheist, and then the only reason that I've come back to... Christ, I don't even know if you should do this interview, because I'm not even...
Deism. Just say deism.
Sure.
There's an overarching being or power that spawned it all into existence.
Sure. Okay. To make my wife happy, I will call myself Christian and go to church with her because it makes her happy and it gives her lots of comfort. And she's not a critical thinker. I'm sorry, she's not. I am. Mm-hmm. I've always analyzed everything thrown at me.
Big question.
You throw lots and lots of facts. I've never taken it to the depth you have, just because I have no reason to in my life. Like, I don't know why. But I wasn't in the situation of being locked in my fucking bathroom for 3 hours. You know, like, I've always been given the freedom of, you can or can't, whatever, do what you want. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I am, and I do what I want. And
Okay, stop there. So I need to ask this question. So, is it... Let me ask you this as a family man, as a man with a burgeoning family now, let's call it that, 1-2-year-old right now, right? And
2-year-old? Yep.
More hopefully on the way very, very soon.
Hope so.
Hope so. Yes, good. Okay, is it in everybody's, including yours, I want you to think selfishly for this question, is it in everybody's best interest for you to say, I am a Christian because it makes my wife happy? Or would it be better to say, I am, fill in the blank, because this is what I think. This is how I've come to reason with the universe. What is more important?
Well, I guess honestly, in a grand scope of things, I wish everybody could say this is where I am because this is what I've deduced. Because I think everybody should analytically come to their own conclusions, because even in science...
Hang on, stop. Like I said, I want you to think selfishly for this question. Is it better for the well-being of your entire family and your own mental health, yourself, you
Me
Mr.
personally,
Rick?
not everybody,
Yes.
just me.
What is better, to forfeit your life in servitude to a label of Christianity that you don't necessarily abide by or you don't necessarily believe in? Or do you believe in chasing things to their logical conclusion and adjusting your belief system based off of that?
The latter. Chase what you can logically conclude, so long as there's intelligence and sound reason making behind it. That's the way you should go.
I agree.
That's the way I go. I guess that's the hardest part for me is, like, I don't necessarily know as though, I mean, you look at a Christian and what all the things that are associated with being Christian are, and I'm not that person. I challenge a lot.
Good.
I reason a lot. I use Christianity as my base because that's just it's a comfortable way to go back, is how it was formed, I guess. So in a sense, Christianity is just it's kind of just a fallback go-to for me, because this is where I'm from. I've challenged it. Hell yes. Do I necessarily agree with it 100%? 50% fucking no. 30% no. I mean, I don't even know. I haven't even read the Bible, for Christ's sake.
You should. That
Why?
led me pretty quickly to atheism.
Why? I don't feel like I ever need to. I don't. I don't.
Okay.
I hate reading in the first place.
Let me stop you then.
Okay.
You think that everybody should challenge their own beliefs, right? And lead themselves to what they can logically conclude.
Yes.
How can you logically conclude that you are a Christian without having read the Christian Bible?
Oh, I don't logically conclude I'm a Christian. It's just a fallback.
Oh, okay. So how can you consider yourself anywhere in the realm of deism or Christianity, or believing that Jesus Christ, and the Christian God existed, when you haven't done any critical research of it? You've just taken hook, line, and sinker, or whatever. you've been spoon-fed about it. And you just read passages that make you feel good.
That's pretty much it, right there.
Because it makes you feel good. You don't want to question that, right?
Not necessarily. I really have no explanation for it. A lot of it is that there's just a comfort zone. Do I believe that it may or may not exist? May I be right or wrong? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Do I believe 100% in all of the stuff that they teach you at church? No. So, could I go down the path of what you believe? Absolutely.
I'm not asking you to do that. I would never ask somebody to go down my path.
I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you. But I'm just labeling this as, here's what I am. Mm-hmm. Do I think that I could be turned easily? Yes.
Turned like a fucking vampire or some shit?
No. Like, provide me enough evidence.
Okay.
And take me down a road. But there's just certain things about being 100% atheist that I can't wrap my mind around.
Well, me too. I'll be dead honest with you, man. I am not a what you would call 100% atheist, because that's a very, very hard. That's hard to defend. Mm-hmm. Agnosticism leaning towards atheism, saying I don't know, but no evidence has been shown to me that would prove the existence of God.
Yep.
I find that to be the most intellectually tenable position.
Sure.
You can plant your stake there and say, I don't know, but I have no reason to believe.
Sure.
That's a place you can defend all fucking day.
Sure.
Because luckily enough, that stance is liquid enough that you can bounce around, you can talk about evidence and facts and historicity and spirituality, which is a big thing that atheists have a problem discussing, is spirituality and emotions. So it's nice that you can bounce around a little bit, but I mean, God, that's the only stance that I can say is that's the only way that I can possibly reason to go to, and that's why I'm there, is because I've reasoned myself into it.
And I've been down that road.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you truly?
Not in the extreme, not in the, God, you were super smart about this. Like, you analyze it incredibly.
Thank you. I put a lot of work into it.
No,
I put
I know
a lot of time and research into it.
But I've been down that road of, I've been on your side. I've been on the side of, prove to me that there's a God. Mm-hmm. Prove it.
Okay.
I have, and so for me to convert back over to the other side of, prove to me that there's not, because that's where I'm at. Like, I'm on a teetering line all the time.
Okay.
Prove to me there's not. Because you can't. Nobody can prove to me that there isn't some bigger whatever that takes care of us.
In the same way, so nobody can prove that there is.
Exactly.
Okay. So
for me, I fall back to the other side for comfort along the lines of just the series of events that have happened this last fall, where I'm going and why I choose to follow Christianity is essentially what you say. It's a comfort thing for me. There's no way to disprove what I believe, so that's just where I go with it. And a lot of it has to do with losing a child and the hope that I get to meet it someday, and that until then something's taking care of it in an afterlife sort of sense. There's no proof or disproof that we don't go somewhere, and there never will be. Like, it's a spiritual thing that's why religion was created in the first place.
I can't argue.
No matter what religion you go to. So for my sake and my wife's sake in losing your child this last year, that's where I just choose to go, in a sense of not necessarily Christianity, but I would love to meet that kid someday. I got to meet it unborn, but just hope in an afterlife sort of sense that I get to spend more time with it. Rather than the 15 minutes I got and buried it in scientific sort of sense. It's a spiritual, emotional, stupid human thing that there's no explanation for or against there's no evidence to prove or disprove that it exists, because you either believe that it could be, or you believe that there ain't no way. And for my sanity's sake and comforting my wife, that's just where I've gone.
Man, there's so much in that I want to address, but it's just really tough to know where to start.
It is. I mean, it's really hard, right? Like,
it's no doubt. It's definitely challenging.
Like I freaking told you, I'm not a dumb person. Like, I've been down your road. I didn't make it as far as you. Mm-hmm. Because I chose not to. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden in my life, like, I'm just back to a point where hope has become a lot. And there's no rhyme nor reason for it. It's a human thing. And
yes, it's a very human thing. You're right.
You are correct.
Human. It's all very human. It's all biological. It's all comprehensible by scientific standards.
Right.
Unfortunately, I'll say this maybe with a little bit of nuance to it, but it might not all apply. That sense of yearning that you have for
anything,
meeting this
for anything you're passionate about,
or for an afterlife, for not wanting to die, for wanting to live for eternity. Like that's some shit that I had to really fight myself with.
And I'm not even
had to fight,
like,
because
I'm in my perspective, like, God, I don't care if I have an afterlife for eternity. God, I just love to have 5 more minutes with that kid.
That's something that I don't think that a whole lot of people can empathize with. But I mean,
I know it's a totally circumstantial situation. I mean,
but
God, I hope that nobody ever has to go through what we went through. But like, I've met so far like 7 other couples that just in the last year lost their kids in the most extreme sort of circumstances. Like, God, one couple we met carried to 39 weeks. A week before, they should have had a kid and delivered a stillborn. And I can't imagine getting that close to meeting somebody that you care so damn much about and you haven't even met yet, and wrapping your mind around the fact that you'll never get to see them again. It's too emotional for me. Like, I can't handle it. Like,
that's a big problem with so many claims that I find that religion offers a nice little sanctuary for.
You're right. It does.
You can't challenge it, and not only can you not challenge it, but it offers some feeling of solace, some feeling of closure.
Yeah.
Well, I can't even say closure, because
there's no closure.
You yourself said
you don't
that
even know that your whole life you can go not knowing whether or not that you'll ever get to meet that baby in a real human form and get to know them as a being. It's a human concept that is formulated, and that's, I mean, that is a form of the religion where I grew up that I can wrap my mind around and just believe in, because of the comfort that it provides. That's a sort of solitude that doesn't exist, but I want to. And there's no scientific proof against or for. Mm-hmm. There's nothing. It's just hope, man. Like,
and it's fascinating how powerful hope is in that circumstance, because you are such a rational and scientifically minded person, and you are sitting here across the hotel room from me saying that I have no evidence for it, I have no proof of it, but I want it so bad, and I hope that it exists so bad that I choose to believe in it regardless.
Yep.
That's literally like walking off the edge of a building and saying, I hope gravity doesn't exist.
But
because honestly,
that's not even necessarily a relevant.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, so A couple years back, I had a death in the family that was very, very devastating to the family. And, I mean, my grandpa just recently died as well. And I find myself challenged by these family turmoils and by these emotions that I don't have any explanation for, that I don't know. Like, I would love to see him again. I'd love to talk to him again and speak with him, have a good conversation.
So even as an atheist, let me ask this, just to interject for a second.
Go ahead.
Even as an atheist, you still have that sort of hope that you could talk to your grandpa again.
Hey, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right?
I would absolutely love to. But
that's where I go with that. It's not even in a literal sense. Like, I could go atheist any damn day. Because there's so much scientific evidence that interjects Christianity, Muslimism, Buddhism, any of that. Mm-hmm. The one part that I hold on to so much is the hope of an afterlife. But that none of us know does or doesn't exist, and we will never know.
Can I be honest with you for just a second, though?
Yeah, go ahead.
There are some benefits to it, though, because I've come to terms with the fact that not only have they died, and not only will my parents and my sister and everybody that I know and love are going to die. Yeah. I'm going to die soon on a relative scale. I'm going to die in
the grand scheme of things,
years, whatever. Yeah. The Earth, the universe, is not going to give a shit
or cease
about Bryce Blankenagel.
Or
they're not going to give a fuck.
Or Rick, for that example.
Yes, exactly. Nothing out there cares. There's nothing that we have to go to beyond this. There's nothing that we have to deal with. And as unfortunate as it is, we don't get to see our family members after we die. That's something I've had to come to grips with and something that I've embraced fully. And honestly, it's made me a better person because I appreciate every moment so much more now. Because this isn't just... Earth isn't just a little pit stop on my way through on my journey through eternity. Earth is all I got, man. Earth is
concrete.
It's the only thing that I literally, truly, physically exist in.
Yep.
That I can change, that I can affect, that I can have some sort of impact on. Yep. And I find that to be such a powerful and beautiful concept. And I think that having this belief in an afterlife, of the fact that we'll be able to live throughout eternity, I think it cheapens life. It makes life so much more meaningless. Because if I'm only here so like from a Mormon stance, I'm a spirit here only to get a body so that I can be resurrected in the last day, right? Mm-hmm. And Christianity believes something similar along those lines, not exactly. Mm-hmm. But if I'm only here, if Earth is only a pit stop, it's like, whatever happens here, it's like, fuck it.
Then who cares?
Yeah, because I'm still going to go on to eternity. And no doubt about it, my actions here on Earth affect my eternity. But like with Mormonism, you always have another chance afterwards that you can always accept the church and you can ascend to heaven, right?
Yeah.
So I find it very, very destructive to society and to a human's brain to think about their life after their life, because they have no effect on it. They can't affect it. They can't change it. They can't embrace it. They can't touch it. They can't see it. They can't do anything about it. All they know is when somebody has a near-death experience, they see their family members and maybe Jesus or maybe Allah, and that's about it. That's the only evidence that we have for it, and it's paper thin.
Or in Buddhism, you come back as a cow.
Yes, as a cow. So kind of like a little aside that I like to add on to that is, as an atheist, dude, I don't have to experience death. Okay, so from an eternal perspective, mm-hmm. you're a spirit, you have a body, your body dies, your spirit ascends to heaven or hell or whatever your determination of your soul is, your spirit. Do you think that you're going to be any different after you experience that death?
No, absolutely not. And that's
even. Are you going to remember the death? Are you going to think about the death? Are you ever going to remember getting hit by that bus?
I have no idea.
Or are you going to remember how that aneurysm felt, that brain aneurysm felt? Are you going to feel that cancer eating your pancreas? Or are you going to remember what that felt like?
I have no idea.
Because I die, and the parts that make up Bryce Blankenagel cease to exist as a whole and break down into their constituent parts.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's okay with me. And that's something I just gotta fucking deal with, and I've learned to deal with, and yeah, fuck it. It's all good. Here I am.
And that's something you can accept. And do I know, in my hope of an afterlife, whether or not I will remember any of those things? I have no idea. I would assume that until my life has ceased, whatever that may be, whatever the definition of ceased is to where we're going, whether that be there's nothing afterwards, I'm also fully adept to accept. But in my hope of wanting to meet my child that I never really got to meet, and hoping to see my grandma and grandpas again, and like when I lost them, I guess I was a dumb kid, man. Like I didn't really fully appreciate who they were and get to experience my mom and dad and their intense love for my child and my nieces and nephews. I really hope that I get to go back and reconcile like how much I underappreciated them. Like
Reconcile. Okay, that's a big word. Reconcile with them or reconcile with yourself?
With them, I feel like I neglected the hell out of them.
I feel that way about my grandpa too.
Right? Like, God, I just look back at how much my parents love my kid. Like, God, I think they love him more than they loved any of us. And like, I can only imagine that that's how my grandparents were. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, you don't think about that stuff. Why would you? But I never treated my grandparents that way. Like, if I could go back and I lost my grandparents pretty early for me. But I'm in their house now, and I guess I pray, or I talk to their spirit life in the fact of, God, I miss you guys. Like, you have no idea how much I miss you. I didn't, at the point of losing them, miss them as much as I do now. Like, holy crap, like, you guys were always there. Always there for me, and I neglected the crap out of that.
And like you said, though, that I think that's a huge matter of perspective. Because when you're a child, when you're young, you don't understand what life is. You don't really understand a full appreciation for life and for family and for just being a societal species. That's something that we stick with families. We stick with each other. And that extends beyond our immediate parents, that goes to our grandparents, to our cousins, to our uncles and aunts, because we're a very, very community-based species. So, I mean, we've only been able to survive as human beings in our tribes, in our groups, and feeling that appreciation and that connection to somebody that we've lost. To our grandparents or to our siblings or to whoever is our significant person that we've lost, that connection is something that it's a dangling loose end. It's a thread that's been cut that we have a connection to, but we don't know what to do with that loose end. It's just hanging out there, and it's just feelings that boil up inside of us, and we don't know how to deal with the feelings because it's so uncontrollable because we can't deal with death. We're not smart enough to deal with death yet.
Yep. And in the scientific analysis of atheism and how you get to be atheist, that I 100% get where you're going. And I hold on to all those little aspects about that you can't explain scientifically whatsoever. There's no proof whether they do or don't. And Christianity provides the afterlife for me of the hope that, God, I get to meet that kid, or I get to go see Grandma and Grandpa and actually fully 100% finally like
You get a hug them
be
again.
with it, yeah, like be like, oh my God, I don't understand.
Like bury your face in their chest.
No
and say, "Hi,
friggin'
I love
idea
you."
how much you love me. Like,
Right. No,
God,
I get
it's an
that.
emotional damn thing, dude. Like, that's where I go with it. Hey, I wish every day I could be with them. I wish they were there in that house that we bought of theirs. Mm-hmm. Every day, like, walk through that freaking kitchen and remember every moment I had with them that I never fucking appreciated. Mm-hmm. Take it back and relive it. Not even that. Just tell them that I appreciated it, because I never did.
And I think that is a huge problem with the human condition, is not being able to tell the people that we love them after they're gone. Having that disconnection that we can't possibly bridge the gap from life to death, because that's a huge paradigm shift in our entire psyche, in our comprehension of who we know and who we love. When somebody we love dies, our entire world is just changed forever, because now we have to adapt to our world without that person from then on. And that's such a painful and challenging thing for the human brain to wrap around.
It is.
And I think this might harken back to something you said earlier in the conversation, but that is such a great and explicable foundation for religion, because it's provided those answers to unanswerable questions for so long. Where do we come from? Where are we going? What are we doing here? And what effects do our what consequences do our actions have? I mean, those are massive questions that we can't summarize, we can't answer with one line or two lines. It's something that requires deep philosophical introspection and self-reflection and comprehension of the world around us, and there's so much more out there to try and comprehend. And when we try and focus on the people or the things that we can't ever have ever again, I think it provides a disservice to human beings, to Homo sapien, because it's just wasting time, it's wasting thought, it's wasting lives. Obviously, religion, so many people have lived and died in the name of religion. I mean, people give their entire lives over to this cause and to this idea that's so immutable and so undefinable it doesn't have any explanatory power. It's just useless. But you can always, somebody that's in a position of authority can always say, well, this is wrong because fill in the blank, whether that's God says it, or the leadership authority says it, or the Bible says it, or the Quran says it, or because Buddha taught it, or whatever. You fill in that blank with anything as a higher authority, the sheeple will follow. That's very, very simple, and we're very good at following. We're just not good at thinking for ourselves yet.
Yeah, and I told you that the other day, human or sheep.
Yeah, exactly.
I know we were talking about that in the driving sense, because people always stick to the right-hand lane and not the left-hand lane, and it's human nature. But you know what? I always take the left-hand lane, so because I'm not a follower.
There you go.
And I don't follow Christian religion because I'm a follower.
That has been made abundantly clear in this discussion. Absolutely abundantly clear, because it's quite clear that you're a thinking Christian.
I'm
not a lot of Christians
I'm not
are
a
like me.
Christian follower because I'm a follower. I am a Christian follower because I wrap my mind around summing it all up. I was raised in a way that I think I turned out to be a good person, and that's just where I want to take my child. I hope he turns out, kind of like me. Who doesn't?
Good. I think you're a great person. Your kid would be lucky to turn out like you. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think all humans, regardless of what they believe, there's certain inalienable things that you just do for other people. I don't care whether you're a Christian or you're a Muslim or I mean even Muslims, as much as I disagree with them attacking America for thinking we're so Christian and disagreeing with the ways that we are.
Because they are infidels. That's it.
Sure. I don't think they fully understand a lot of who we are as people. Because I think there's a lot of people out there like me. Hell, a lot of my friends are the same way. They question Christianity all the time, but they stick with it because a lot of the afterlife is part of it. There's no proof or disproof against the fact that it exists, and until we become smarter as a human race, and for any of us, if any scientific evidence comes along that actually concretely disproves the fact that there's an afterlife, or a fact that we'll never get to meet the people we've lost, I don't think any of them would hesitate to switch in their beliefs.
That's a huge,
and that's what
huge thing. That's
what all of us struggle to grasp, and that's where we all are in our lives. Lots of my friends, God, they've miscarried, and none of them have been as far along as I were, and gotten to deliver and actually hold the presence of a little human being, like arms and legs and a head and eyes and nose, and it was all there. That's son of a bitch. Why the fuck did this end? And how do you wrap your mind around why?
biology, man. It's a bitch.
No, I know.
Biology is
biology beyond all means is real, and I'm with you. It's the It's the presence of afterwards, and even in the animal aspect, because I'm a meat scientist and I don't feel it's wrong to eat meat and kill other things to provide for myself.
No, I agree with you.
There
Absolutely.
are so many challenges to everything everybody believes, and everybody in their own course of life wraps their mind around things that they don't fully understand. I feel like I've tried to understand everything, and when it comes full down to religion, the presence of an afterlife and the background history of what going to church has provided me in being a good person, and even not so with my dad not ever going to church, provided me the combination of all aspects. My mom was devout to the church, and my dad could give two shits. And in the combination of that, do I think they were both good people? Well, hell yeah. And do I think my kid should ever have to subscribe to what I believe? Hell no. No. Go your own way. But when it boils down to losing the kid, which is what really wrapped my mind around just wanting and hoping to believe, that's where I went. So it doesn't matter what you try to say to me. At this point in my life, until you can disprove it, that's where I'm going with myself.
So let me take this to a common atheist-theist argument.
Okay, I'll listen.
I can in no possible, conceivable way prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there is a teapot orbiting the moon.
Yep.
I could never prove that.
Right.
I could never disprove that.
Okay.
I never, ever, ever.
Sure.
But do you think it's likely that there's a teapot orbiting the moon?
I bet if it is, it's really pretty.
Well said. No, okay, honestly though.
No.
It's fucking ridiculous, right? It's a ridiculous claim. There's no factual basis for it. There's no possible explanation for it being there in the first place. It's a ridiculous claim. So you can write it off and say that's okay. Whoever claims that is fucking stupid and some full bullshit, right? The same way that somebody that claims that we live on a flat Earth, you're like, okay, you read a fucking science book, you idiot, because we live on a globe. We live on a fucking obligated sphere or whatever it is, an oblong sphere.
Yeah.
So,
but you can't just. I'm sorry, going back. Like, there's no scientific proof that a teapot doesn't orbit the moon.
True. But let me. Okay, let's go here. Let's go here with the afterlife then.
Okay.
Is it scientifically tenable to believe that human beings alone perpetuate and live after they have died? When there has been shown no evidence for that claim, when we don't think that gnats and fucking diesel trucks or fucking red barns have an afterlife. We don't think that any of those things have an afterlife, but we think that human beings are special and we have an afterlife based on no evidence whatsoever, just on hopes that we can live forever. Is there any sort of intellectual tenability or defensible position from an afterlife perspective?
No.
Okay, that's all. That's all I need to hear from you. Because okay, so if there is not a way to defend an intellectual claim, why the fuck do you plant your flag at that claim?
My flag's only planted like 3 inches, dude, so I can move it with any scientific fact.
Well said. Well said. Okay, so you're liquid. Your belief. Your worldview is liquid based off of new evidence.
How can you not be?
There's plenty of people that aren't. There's plenty of people that introduce new evidence.
Oh shit! I fucking know.
Right.
I know. Atheists and non-atheists. Fuck, I know. And
true.
No offense, but I know you're atheist. But I believe that if somewhere along the way there was full-on factual proof that God existed, that you would not believe it.
Dude, I gotta be completely honest with you. I would downright love to believe in a God.
Wouldn't you?
Because the ideas of an afterlife, the ideas of an all-loving God that sees everything that we do, that helps us in situations, that is looking out for me when nobody else will, those sound fucking great.
So we're on two sides. I can
sit here and say, I would love to have that.
So we're on two sides of a chalk line that you could step across at any given point, given the right circumstances. Both of us. Could I go your way? Yes. Do I choose not to? Yes. Because I've been in certain circumstances that you have not. I choose to believe that I get to meet my lost child. And that's been a very, very, I'm not going to lie, it is probably the number one factor as to why I choose to be on the right side of the line versus your left side, or left versus right. I don't give a crap, left, right, whatever.
Opposing.
The opposing side of the line that you're on. Do I think that I am 3 miles to the right side of your left side, or right side of your left side? Like, who gives a shit? It don't fucking matter. No, I don't. I don't believe that. I am literally given any factual information one fucking step from going over the other line.
So you live an evidence-based life, apparently.
Yes.
What is
in most of everything. Perfect. In the fact of things I can wrap my mind around.
Okay.
Okay?
I was going to say, then, where do you draw that rational conclusion of an afterlife existing? But you said it all just now. You said that in most things in my life, in things you can wrap your head around. But when you start talking about eternity, human beings can't even comprehend a million of something, let alone a billion or an eternity of something.
There's no evidence to prove there's any sort of eternity.
Yes, true.
But you know what? There's no evidence that there's not. I choose to believe in the opposite side of you on that line because my hope is just after losing, well, we've had 2 miscarriages, but the second one was just a little more concrete in that pre-October for us. I could have easily gone atheist any day. The only reason I go to church is because my wife says we need to go to church today. I'd never ask her, and she's called me out on it several times. The only reason we go to church, she is literally, we got into an argument a couple weeks ago of the only reason that we go to church is because of me, Rick. Well, yeah, you're right, honey. She's like, you would never ever just come up with the decision that we should go to church. No, you're right. 100%. That's been my whole life since I was 10 years old and my mom said you don't have to go to church anymore. I don't necessarily believe in Christianity, so I'm sorry. Like, I don't know if this...
Don't apologize.
I don't know if this eliminates this whole argument. Like,
no,
I choose to go the path I've gone down because of my history and how I was raised, and the fact that there are lots of things in how I was raised and growing up that you can't disprove.
Let me be honest with you.
I want to be there. I want to meet my lost child. I want to apologize to my grandparents for being neglectful to them. I want to later on in life meet the aunt and uncle that my side of the family doesn't talk to because my dad and my aunt can't see eye to eye, and want to tell them, look, I'm sure you had reasoning for being the way you were and we had it for our side, but I want you to understand that I never wished ill upon you. Like, it's just,
dude,
and in the current life, I can't explain that to them because it's not worth it to me to tell them now and ruin my relationship with my dad,
right?
And befriend them on the same side.
Let me try and summarize my perspective on you for this conversation. Rick, you're a good person. Like, you're an intelligent and really, really good-hearted person, and you obviously want the best for everybody possible.
I would like to hope that, yes.
Good. I mean that's all that I can deduce from this conversation, because you've been so understanding, so open, so pleasant for this entire conversation. You've just been so... You've shown me the type of person that you really are, and how genuine and pleasant and good, and just generally good of a person you are. And I sit back and I've done these fucking thousands of hours on research of Christianity, not just Mormonism, Christianity in general, all kinds of theism, Muslim, Hindu. I've done so much research on it. And I have found myself completely divorced from these various worldviews, because I see there's something in it that I can't agree with, because I feel that my morality is far beyond anything that any religion could tell me that my morality is. And I think you're in the same boat as I am. Because I think that you are just a great person, whether or not your church or your wife or your parents tell you to be. It doesn't matter what they say, because you're just a good person. And that is something I can never have a quabble with. I can never argue against that, because if we're all trying to be good people and we're all trying to make the planet a better place for the person next to us or for our children or for whatever, then the only possible product of an effort of a global good for humanity is benefits, is good for our fellow beings, is good for you and me, is good for you in respect to me. If we can be a good people to each other, it doesn't matter what our belief system are. It doesn't matter what our upbringing is or what we've gone through in our life. It doesn't matter who we know, who we've loved, who we've lost. None of it matters, because we're good people to each other, and we can have a great open conversation. We can hash out points like this. We can really discuss these hard topics, whether we agree on them or not. But we can really talk about these things deep down and see what each other think without any sort of vitriol or hatred for each other, because I think we're both just generally good people, and we want the best for humanity. We want the most well-being for humanity.
I agree.
And that is something that I don't think any human being can argue against. I think we all want everybody to be happy in the grand scheme of things. I think that's why Christians evangelize. I think that's why Muslims blow people up that aren't Muslims.
Because they think that's the greater good.
That's right. I think that's why the Mormon Church has a missionary force of almost 100,000 people out of a membership of 5.5 million roughly people, inflated to 15 million people. Because when people have the right idea, when people have an idea that they find is successful and is beneficial, they want it to spread. They want to give it to their fellow being because they feel good and they want their neighbor to feel good as well. And I think that's something that you and I can really come to terms on, is like, I want the best for you. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I hope that you want the best for me, including
absolutely.
everybody. Right, like, we all want the best for each other. We all want each other to live in the best possible society we can create for each other. That's all we can do. That's all we can hope for as people.
And the problem that I foresee in what you're saying is that there are lots of people like you and me that want exactly what you described. But I think there are so many people that are so uneducated and have not challenged and taken care of where they are in life. Whether you being a so-called atheist and me being a so-called Christian, really when it boils down to it, we believe the same thing for each other. No matter what we believe in an afterlife or non-afterlife, or like, really it's all about respect for each other and just getting along, for Christ's sake, which is where all the problems. For Christ's sake,
nice little interjection.
That's just part of my language. I'm sorry. I mean,
sorry, I had to throw that in.
No, it's fine. That's part of my dialect.
It's like saying, God damn it.
Right, exactly. And anyway, even you've said that.
I say God damn it all the time. That's literally like every fourth.
And you don't even believe in God.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So
anyway, sorry.
No, that's awesome. What formulates the problems between all of us is people that don't inform themselves. Muslim extremists, I don't feel, are educated enough to understand where we come from.
I think a lot of people can agree with that.
And I'm sorry to say this, because I have a lot of Catholic friends. I don't understand where they come from and how they are Catholic, but the Catholic Church does a lot of bad things.
Not even today. No. The Catholic Church right now in its today form is the most mundane and lukewarm Catholicism we've ever seen.
And yet they rape children. Holy shit.
Fuck yes. Thank you.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Up, dude, you're fucking right. It's
how can you follow a pope whose followers rape children. It's so wrong.
And then cover it up. And then shuffle each other around so that legal indictments don't fall.
I get it, man.
Yes, it's fucked.
What the hell?
And every time they pay tithing, they're giving homage and support to that same society.
So, back to our original conversation.
Yes.
In the process of natural selection, survival of the fittest, I believe in a deep down survival of the fittest situation, the Muslims that can sympathize where we are, the atheists that can sympathize with the Muslims, the atheists and Muslims that can sympathize with the Christians who can also in turn do the exact same thing, can all live in. You believe what you want, I believe what you want. You know what, man? Like, none of us can disprove any of it, of where we are. You do your thing, because who am I to say you're wrong? And you believe the same thing about me. You come to the perspective of you can't disprove me and I can't disprove you, and we all treat each other with the same ideological respects of, if I pass you on the sidewalk and I have no idea who you are, I say hi. I don't care. You know, just and us, you know, with being together and hanging out for 2 weeks, 4 weeks. This, you know why I wave to people, man, on driving down the road when we're together? I may not know who they are, but you know what? Like, you could be having a shitty day and my waves and saying hi, how are you? Mm-hmm. Like, without ever even just past each other, I could change that guy's day. You don't know that. You don't. Just be friendly. Like, just be a human and exist with each other, regardless of what you believe.
Be a human. Try to attain the most good for yourself, and try to provide the most good for your fellow human beings. Because we're all brothers and sisters in Homo sapien.
None of us, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, atheist, none of us have
throw Jews in there. We haven't talked about Jews at all, so Jews.
Fucking Jews.
Even the Jews.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. Really, though, like, none of us know who is right, and why should we wage war against each other? Like, sorry, man, but, like, alright, y'all live your way, I'll live my way, leave me alone, I'll leave you alone about it, because really, when it boils down to it, there's no proof or disproof for where we're at. So, just
live and let live, goddammit.
We could all be fucking Buddhists. Who knows? Like, you may come back as a cow. You don't know. Like, maybe you were bad in the last life, dude, and you got recreated. Man. Maybe you were an asshole, and your punishment was to come back and be a human, and theologically derive how fucking bad we are as people. Like, because the rest of the animal world isn't given that right. But who knows? Buddhists are maybe right. Like, maybe humanism is the shittiest form of punishment, because
maybe humanism is the best
or the
possible elevated position that humans can get to. Who the fuck knows?
And you don't fucking know that. I don't know that. Buddhists don't know that. Hinduists don't know that. You have no fucking idea. So, whatever. Let it go. Like, deduce what you can deduce from what you know in life.
That's a great way to sum it up.
What I can
live how you can live.
What I can choose to hold on to in my perspective is things that have happened to me that haven't happened to you. Man, like, you have never lost a child.
And all that I can hold to is the research that I've done that you haven't done.
Correct.
And
you're growing up in literally listening to Mormonism. If I grew up Mormon like you did, I could fully see myself being in your position, because where I was raised was not as intensely crazy as where you were raised, man. Sure. Like, my non-sect just gathering of an overall quotation Christian people. We're just a community church, man. Like, they enforce Mormonism or Catholicism or Presbyterianism or Lutheranism or any of the isms on us. It was kind of just a grouped up, here's the general census.
It's a come to Jesus party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of us grew up not following or staying with it because we challenged it. It's like you should do in life. Mm-hmm. Well, I almost went completely opposite of where I am. Not completely, because obviously I'm on a line.
That's one side of the spectrum.
One side of the spectrum. And you're not atheist enough to be where
on that
pure side. Atheist should be.
Okay.
Dude, there's a teetering line between everything. So, like, people should just believe what they want to believe and deal with it. Sorry.
That's a perfect way to say it, dude. I agree with you. People should believe what they should believe.
Prove to me there's no God, scientifically, and I'll believe you.
Prove to me there is a God scientifically, and I'll be happy to believe you.
Absolutely. And until then, you're my friend, and I'm your friend, and we can get along, man.
Fucking A-right. Nux for that. Blow it up. What can I say, man? Dude, thank you for this conversation. This has been awesome.
We do this over and over. Like, this is what every person that disagrees with another person should do.
Right. Open, honest, adult conversation.
Right? Because really, when it boils down to it, are we really that different? No.
We're all humans. We're all human beings.
Do you believe the same good things about human people that I do? Yes.
Yep.
Do I go one way because I've had certain life events, and you go one way because you've had certain life events? Yep. And that's all it is.
That's all.
It's all a bunch of damn circumstances that we cannot prove or disprove that put us where we are. So, I may claim Christianity, but obviously I've proven that I'm pretty terrible at it.
I'm going to say you're lukewarm Christian
I literally only claim it, Bryce, because my wife says we need to go to church on Sunday.
Dude, I can't argue with that. And that's something I would love to talk to you about on the next conversation.
Yeah, we should.
Is what you think about with that. And, you know, that's a driving force behind a lot of families attending Christianity, and I can't argue that it's... Well, there's a lot of good things and a lot of bad things that it provides for society.
I think there's a lot of good intentions with a lot of bad connotation.
Well said. Or bad executions.
Execution, yeah, that's an even better word. Yeah. Like, there's... I think a lot of people take their kids to church to teach them the moral route in life, and, God, they just get misdirected.
They get fucked up.
They get misdirected, man. Mm-hmm. Like... I think where you're at, you have fully taken it to the level of how the fuck did you take me down this path? You know? Like, not to say that you don't respect or disrespect your parents. Yeah. Because obviously you still love them and you go home and... that's your family, man. You're devoted to them. But
I still talk. I mean, they know about the podcast. I talk with them about it. I mean, not frequently, but they recently found out about it because I fucking recently started it. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a point of contention throughout the family. So I'm gonna have some interesting conversations about that in the future.
Really love for them to hear our conversation, because I think from me being a little closer to their side, not necessarily full their side, that they would understand more of where you're coming from, because I'm just so middle of the road.
And I think you're like kind of similar to my parents.
I really think that they would, like, just for your sake, like, I really hope your parents are are cool with everything, because I am. I think you have full right to be where you're at. And
as do you. We all do.
I hope they understand that too, and I would never wish a burden between a parent and their kids.
Thank you.
Like, I hope my kid understands where I'm at in life, and I got
your kid will.
My wife and I aren't necessarily on the same path, but I can reason with her and just go with what we're teaching our kids, because I think deep down the perspective is where we're wanting them to end up. So,
well said.
Yep. Thank you, Bryce.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for joining me. This was an absolute party. We're going to do this again sometime.
I'd love to.
Hope the listeners enjoyed this, and I think they are going to enjoy our future discussions.
I sure hope so.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for joining me. All right, that was it. A conversation with Rick. I really hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. The nature of this conversation was a little bit different than the conversations that I've had with Jesse in the past, but I think that both types of these conversations are equally important to have with theists. I kind of hope that you guys are willing to offer a little bit of feedback on the conversation. And I know that there were some things that might have made some of you guys scream at your headphones because, he brought them up and I didn't contradict or refute them, or I didn't get my point completely across the way I should have. But, that's just on me. That's because, I'm not that great of a debater. And, that's okay, because it's still fun to have these conversations, especially with somebody new that you don't ever have these conversations with. And it's even better to end the conversation by shaking hands and agreeing to disagree, which that's what we did. And it's just, it's a fun way to have a discussion with somebody talking about their beliefs. So I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Before I close this episode, I did have a few people to thank. We have our newest NAMO juvenile delinquent, Marty M. Thank you, Marty, for your support of the show. It's really great to have you entering the NAMO kingdom, and I surely hope you enjoy your stay. Be sure to check out any extra content you might have gained access to on Patreon by just signing up. Next, I needed to bring everyone's attention to a person by the name of Sean Whitston. A true hero by any standard. Let me tell you about him. Sean was a very well-to-do businessman with an insatiable hobby of exotic fishing in tropical locations on his massive luxury cigarette boat. One day, Sean was fishing off the coast of Australia, but wasn't even getting a single bite. The water seemed barren for some reason. The lack of any extra excitement from reeling and fighting the next big catch that hadn't shown up yet forced Sean to sit alone inside his thoughts, staring at the water. Sean began to think about what his calling in life might be and why he was living the way he was. He seemed successful in life and fairly happy, but still felt an inexplicable void when he laid down to sleep every night. Well, the emptiness was finally catching up to him during his waking hours, and he was left asking the singular ultimate question: what is the meaning of life? If there's no bigger picture for humans' existence, what is the point of even existing? Or, for that matter, continuing to exist? Just as this seemingly unanswerable conundrum crossed Sean's mind, there was a tug on the line. This was convenient timing, as he was about to reel in and change his fishing spot. Besides, there was a cruise ship a knot or two in the distance heading towards Sean, and he knew that they don't change their course for anybody that's fishing or playing in the water. So Sean takes his fishing rod into his hands, as it's slowly ticking because of what's on the other end of the line. Sean begins his expert reeling technique. The line begins to pull away really hard, and Sean throws his back into the fight. He's pulling and reeling as hard as he ever remembers doing, but the line keeps getting pulled further and further. Sean rips the rod up with all of his might just to try to gain a couple of inches of line, but the boat seems more content to move in the direction the line is being pulled. Sean pulls the fishing rod way back over his head to the point that either the rod or the line is going to give in to the opposing forces of nature. He hears the fiberglass in the rod start crackling, signifying the rod will be the weakest link in the chain and will be the first to break. As Sean decides to pull out his clippers to cut the line, instead of losing his best rod, the tension on the other end of the line suddenly gives way. Sean launches back into the seat behind him from the unexpected loss of fight. He knows that the line snapped and that he lost his favorite tackle, but it's no different from most of his other outings. Sean reels in the limp fishing line, but he does notice a couple of weird tugs as he's reeling. He begins to realize that the line didn't break, and whatever's on the other end of his line is something that he's never felt before, never experienced. He furiously reels, and the line becomes tight again. But the line isn't going downward into the water. It's straight out from the boat a few feet under the surface, and it isn't moving at all. Sean pulls and tugs, but the line won't budge anymore. It's just staying still. What could be on the other end of the line? It's just sitting there. Off into the middle distance, the cruise ship is slowly getting closer, and Sean knows that he needs to get out of the way lest he get caught in a confrontation with the hull of the approaching white dreamscape of drunk white geriatrics. Sean stands up on the back edge of the boat to get a higher vantage point and sees that the line is hooked to something that's glistening just under the surface of the water. In a desperate attempt to satisfy his curiosity and rescue, his favorite tackle from being lost forever in the wake of a cruise ship, Sean snaps on some goggles and dives into the water. The reality of what was really happening underwater instantly grips Sean with a chill that ran down his spine. 2 feet under the surface of the water, not 10 feet from Sean's prized cigarette boat, was a massive steel ball with spikes coming out of it, and a chain attached to the bottom that disappeared into the abyss below. It was a forgotten Axis underwater mine. His fishing line must have got caught on whatever was holding it to the ocean floor and tugged it loose. Sean stares fear-struck at the simple machine made for the sole purpose of killing people, knowing he could be one of those people if he doesn't get the fuck away from this terrifying death trap. Sean scrambles up onto the deck of his boat that's peacefully glistening in the sunlight. He cuts the line and throws his rod onto the floor of the boat. He launches himself at the captain's seat and grabs the key to start the boat. Sean looks back, and the cruise ship is getting even closer, never changing course. The ship began to blare its powerful horns as it nears Sean and his boat. He knows that if he doesn't do something, every single person on the ship could be in grave danger. Who knows how big the charge inside the mine is, or even if it's still active, it might just bounce off the ship without any harm done whatsoever. But the alternative to that is a catastrophe, wherein the cruise ship hits the mine and it blows the ship in half. Sean is the only person with any power to avert the imminent crisis. Sean fires up the massive motor on his cigarette boat as the cruise ship is bearing down on the mine. It's do or die. The engine roars to life, and Sean throws the drive into full throttle and rips away from the mine, seemingly leaving it unattended and running away from this new deadly revelation that Sean just had. But what's going through his mind is much more noble than running away in cowardice. He rips the boat around in a tide arc and aims himself straight at the cruise liner. Sean finally understood that the meaning of life is whatever we determine it to be. The meaning of his life was to be a good person and help as many people as he could, as often as he could. There doesn't need to be an intrinsic or unverifiable point to our existence. The point of human existence is to help every person you come into contact with, even if that is a cruise ship full of old people that are unwitting to such a noble act. This new revelation brought Sean to a level of understanding, and the world seemed to slow to a near stop. He could see the front of his boat, the massive cruise liner with thousands of people on it, and the glistening of the mine under the surface of the water in between the two vessels. Sean realizes that this is his calling in life, to save thousands of people from drowning. He just hoped he hadn't decided to save them too late. Experiencing the world in slow motion, Sean was able to look around and see what was happening around him. He appreciated the beautiful sun reflecting off the water, the mist of the salt water hitting his face, the whale in the distance with its tail as it dives below the surface. The world around him is completely surreal. It's the most beautiful sight Sean has ever seen, a fitting sight to be his last. Time is crawling by as Sean takes in all of these sights, and he falls in love with nature and the beauty of the world again. He looks down at the throttle control and notices something glistening hanging from a chain that's wrapped around the control lever. The cruise ship horn is constantly blaring as it races Sean to the mine, but it doesn't seem to have any effect on him. Just as the front of Sean's boat touches the antique maritime destroyer, he grabs the talisman and there's nothing but silence. The mine explodes with enough force to cripple the strongest of warships. Sean's boat turns into fiberglass confetti and scatters in every direction. The cruise ship's hardened steel hull stands up to the boat shrapnel that's thrown against it, but there's no doubt that had the luxury cruise liner collided with the mine, it would be taking on water at a deadly rate, and hundreds or thousands could be injured or killed. Sean was a hero for being willing to quite literally dive on a grenade for the good of his fellow humans. Unfortunately, most people will never know what exactly happened that day. The only lasting image that any of them will remember is what happened on top of the water directly after Sean's boat exploded. Usually when gasoline or oil is on the surface of water and is on fire, it simply burns in whatever the path the fluid drifts in the water. Not today. For some reason, the fire wasn't burning yellow or orange with black smoke. It was burning pure white with no smoke whatsoever. But that wasn't the weirdest part about the flames. For some reason, as soon as the explosion happened, this blinding white fire spread out in massive lines, connecting together what seemed to be a message in the fire. Not a single person on the cruise ship could ever know what exactly the message meant. Nobody in this realm knows that. They can't even guess how or why it happened. The arms of blistering fire connected to form 3 letters. J-A-Y. What could it mean? All I know is there's one less apostate in the world, but oddly enough, the presence of this fallen comrade isn't gone. It's merely altered. The presence of this apostate descending to the ultimate rank in outer darkness has only just been realized and felt by the myriad demons populating the realm. Demon Sean only just awoke to the outer darkness realm as the newest demon, and all he sees is his fellow demons trembling in fear of this new, unfamiliar force. Nobody knows what it is or what to expect, and I hope to come to some kind of understanding of this inexplicable force someday. Thank you, Sean and Jay, for your support of the show. You both helped to propel the show to the first milestone goal on Patreon. That means that every episode is going to have at least an hour and a half of content before I jump into patron shoutouts or listener mail. I must say, I really appreciate every patron that has taken this show to this level. The last few episodes have really felt a bit cramped on time, and it's going to feel really good to have a little extra time allowance to dig deeper into some topics. Also, if the contributions stay where they are right now, over $200 a month is going to the charity Holding Out Help to help people transition out of a Mormon polygamist family or commune. That's a substantial difference to be making in people's lives who really need it. And the show has only been running for 6 months. I have only you guys to thank for being so awesome and supporting the show. So to every patron that has signed up, thank you. And if anybody wants to sign up to be a patron, go to patreon.com and search for Naked Mormonism. All the while you donate, you'll be helping people to get out of horrible, abusive religious living situations. And if you get to a certain level, you'll get a little translation story written about you like Sean did in this episode. So, go check it out. Sign up if you want to support the show, and that's great. If you want to help out with the show, but can't afford financial support, you can help a ton by going to iTunes or your podcast listening source of choice and leaving a 5-star review for the show. Or you can pop into the Facebook page and interact with the lively group that's there and possibly give some of your own insights. We're always interested in having some new voices come in onto the Facebook page, or check out the Twitter page. I don't keep terribly active with it, but anyway, you get the idea. Speaking of which, I actually did have a little bit of listener feedback to get to. So, Nick sent a Facebook message asking my opinion on the origin of baptisms for the dead. Quite frankly, I haven't done much research on it, and I feel a bit underprepared to fully answer. However, Nick was nice enough to leave me a few leads in his message about one possibility being the Ephrada cloister movement. Kind of unique, but I'll describe it in a minute here. Just in doing a little bit of brief searching, I think I have some way of piecing it all together, but I don't think my answer is very well informed. It looks like the Ephrada Cloister Society was run by a guy named Konrad Beissel. He was a German immigrant Christian pastor that basically built his own society of recent immigrants from Germany in Pennsylvania. Some might even call him a cult leader. Anyway, he died in 1768, 5 years before D-Day David Whitmer was born in Pennsylvania, not far from the Commune. From then on, the religion declined and fractured from disagreements among the members and who was going to be the next leader. Most of these break-off sects were considered just Seventh-day Adventists, and the Whitmers were members of one of these sects. The last holdout clergy of the church who were sworn to celibacy died out in 1813, and the last practicing members stopped practicing in the early 1920s. The Whitmers moved to New York about 6 years after that, about 1819, 1820. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the first religion that the Whitmer grandparents were members of when they first immigrated from Germany around 1750. The reason the connection has been drawn historically is due to some convincing pieces of evidence. The Ephrada practiced baptism by immersion for the dead to be saved. I found this quote about the society and their practices. Quote, in his book, Conrad Weiser, Friends of Colonists and Mohawk, Philadelphia University, Pennsylvania Press, 1945, Paul Wallace gives an account of 18th century frontiersman Conrad Weiser's experience at Ephrata in 1738. In a chapter entitled Conrad Weiser Becomes a Priest After the Order of Melchizedek, that Order of Melchizedek, that's significant in Mormon culture, just throwing that out there. Wallace says of the 1738 encounter, quote, out of the brain of Emanuel Eckerling Elimelech, there sprang that same year, 1738, the ingenious concept of the baptisms for the dead. Persons who had died without the grace of total immersion might yet be saved if they were baptized by proxy. Peter Miller, who never lost his head amid all these insinuating mummeries, was against it, but Conrad Beissel, the person we're interested in, leader of the Seventh-day Baptists, ready as always to follow a religious will-o'-the-wisp, set his seal upon it. Emanuel Eckerling was the first to receive baptism in this kind, in a pool of the Cocalico under Beissel's hands. He was immersed on behalf of his departed mother. The principle once accepted, the thing became popular, and the next world must soon have been swarming with souls so astonished to find themselves sainted by Cocalico immersion in abstentia. End quote. So we have the Whitmer family following a break-off sect of this Beissel guy that kind of came up with the idea of baptisms for the dead. Now, let's consider the influences on Joe at the time when D-Day would have had the most influence on the burgeoning doctrine of the church, and Joe's theological convictions by extent. It would have been when Joe, Emma, and Cowdung moved into a small house on the corner of the Whitmer property. Joe had lost his unbaptized brother Alvin about 2 years before this, which was still a bit of a sore spot for the entire Smith family. And Joe had recently had his first miscarriage with Emma. The idea of necromancy for the salvation of unbaptized souls was looking pretty good to Joe at the moment. It's no stretch of imagination that Joe would have been thinking about this for quite some time, and possibly would have sought counsel from the people he looked up to in a spiritual sense. Joe would have been ripe for the molding of D-Day's personal opinions about the doctrine of baptisms for the dead. Joe wasn't exactly a stranger to pulling his doctrines and theology from the sources around him, and the people he was closest to obviously had the most influence. Cowdung, D-Day, Hinchpin Rigdon, Big Daddy Cheese, all of them contributed one piece or another to the church, some more than others. I personally believe the Whitmer Beisel theory to be the source of baptisms for the dead doctrine. But even when Beisel came up with the doctrine around 1738, it probably wasn't original at the time. This is merely the earliest source we can find for the practice being used, but it could have been all the rage in the early 1700s, and Beisel's Ephrada community was just the one that had all the notoriety for necromancy being their campaign platform. It was probably just Beisel's philosophical expansion of 1 Corinthians 15:29 in the first place. A little side note, in verse 52 of that same chapter, it talks about being changed in the twinkling of an eye, which is another phrase that holds significance in Mormon doctrine. Joe probably just followed the same logical conclusions about this 1 Corinthians verse that Beisel did, but Joe had D-Day David looking over his shoulder there to help him along the way, and D-Day was probably already familiar with the practice of baptisms for the dead from the religious sect he and his parents were part of. So the thing that I found most interesting in Nick's message is he actually states that he doesn't believe that there is a significant connection between the Ephrada and the Mormon practice of baptisms for the dead. He said his friend posed a pretty good argument that dissuaded him from agreeing with the Ephrada theory. Honestly, I would love to hear this argument because from my little bit of looking around, it seems pretty open and shut. And I would love to hear your refutation, Nick, and this argument, but I would just say maybe jump over onto the Facebook wall instead of in messages. Let's get everybody's input on it. What do you guys think? Did I make a convincing argument here, or is there a hole in my logic that I'm missing somewhere that pushes this theory back? I'll post this response along with my research links onto the Facebook page, so anybody that's interested in chipping in on the conversation can do so. Well, I guess that's about it for today's episode. I did want to mention one more thing before signing off. I'm going to be working on a new project pretty soon. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still planning on keeping to the every other week schedule on this show. It's just a little bit of consulting work that I'm doing on another show for a little while. We just recorded a pilot episode that will be beta tested to our patrons only, but we're really hoping to get some feedback on it. So if you want to listen to the episode when it goes up, be a patron when it comes out and, let us know what you think. That's it for today's episode. Join me next time as the episode will be closer to the intended 1.5 hours as I previously stated. These discussion episodes tend to go a little bit longer than I can control because I really don't want to cut anything out. So next episode, I'm going to try and make a case for the view of the Hebrews authorship theory of the Book of Mormon inside that little 1.5-hour block of time. It should be pretty challenging, but I'm really looking forward to it. There's a lot of fun information in it. So I guess that's it. Thanks for joining me, and I guess I'll talk at you next time here on the Naked Mormonism podcast.